Would you allow Ethiopian Jews to settle here?
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you allow Ethiopian Christians to settle here?
Yeah.
Would you allow Ethiopian Muslims to settle here? So your issue is not ethnicity then. Your issue is the religion, which means that the church acknowledges no borders. The church acknowledges no boundaries. We do not care if the Muslims say you can't go to Mecca. We are going to take the gospel to Mecca. Giving ourselves over to hatred is one of the key problems of ethno-nationalism. Because pride and hubris in something as vain as your race very quickly and very easily leads to hatred of other races. I want to do a discipleship with the people group that you're talking about.
Oh boy, oh no, oh no.
Tell your thoughts about the
Only an atheist would say that.
Okay, we're ready to rock
only
and roll.
Christ could provide his
Action!
job, and he said other gods are available.
Okay.
Like, is he going to mock him or something?
Tell us,
Only-
Ralph.
So-
Just explain your political philosophy to me.
The philosophy, I can see the philosophy.
Yeah.
I'll frame it in the light of the events that got everyone excited.
Okay.
So I'm supporting in the formation political party with some other people.
Yeah.
And it sort of best matches my political understanding of the world.
Okay.
I'm a Christian neo-reactionary.
Yeah.
The Christian bit, I don't have to mention.
You don't have to
I
explain
don't explain that bit.
I
One
understand
thing
neo-reactionary as well.
Yeah, and I believe that currently under accelerationism at the top narrative.
You what, sorry?
Under accelerationism in the top narrative, people are getting faster, quicker alive. People
Yeah.
are moving quicker, air
Yeah.
traffic, transportation, everything's getting faster, quicker, cheaper. We have a threat that is basically a demographic threat.
Yes.
And within that demographic threat, we want to preserve it.
Yeah.
And
What are we trying to
nationally-
preserve, Ralph?
The ethnicities, for example, all the countries for the reason that we would have a stability. And in my view as a Christian, that stability would lead us to an order and peace.
I want to challenge this idea that we need to preserve the ethnicity. And I want to posit to you that biblically, from a Christian perspective, ethnicity is superseded.
Correct. I agree with you. So you
Right.
don't have to convince me of that.
Okay,
I
right.
believe, for example, my black Christian brother is more of a brother to me than anyone else.
Yeah, right.
If I had a brother, which I don't, and he's not a Christian, my
Yep.
heart would go to my Christian brother, independent of ethnicity.
Would you
Then again,
agree? Would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that the English have long since abandoned the Christian faith?
They have, I think the Enlightenment, I think, was the start of the demise, and
Yeah.
since then it's only got worse. And recently, 60s, 90s, it's catastrophic.
So, what is the benefit of preserving the English ethnicity?
Because I believe that if we had a national government, it would be a tactical measure to resist the globalism that is allowing the neoliberal world to carry on.
Okay.
And part of that downstream is this Russian people who could never be or were never English or any Christian against a shrinking Christian core, which needs to be like protected, to be preserved in a whole new generation.
So let me
So traditionalism to Christianity.
let me address a couple of points that you've made there.
So if I'm bobbing around, it's just because I'm a little chill.
It's all right. So in terms of ethnicism, we agree that ethnicism is secondary to religiosity, the religion, to Christ, to the church. Okay, we agree on that. We agree that the English are not the friends of the gospel.
They've lost their ways.
Yeah, they've lost their ways. And in terms of therefore preserving the ethnicity, you argue that if we can preserve the English ethnicity, we can protect a shrinking Christian core.
I don't argue that for that reason. I argue that if we want to protect, slow down the rocks, if you like,
Yep.
and then heat it back upwards, what would be the most stable system in which to do that?
Right, but hold on.
So
In terms
the
of
stable system would be national.
but over the course of 2,000 years of Christian history, what we've realised is the church can survive in the most acidic situations.
I don't see the church line.
Yeah, the church will be triumphant. Like look at Japan. You know, the Japanese decided they were going to wipe out Christianity, and then you had the secret Christians who lived on the island. And they survived right up until the Japanese reopened.
I'm fearful for the
Yeah.
church.
Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia.
I'm sorry, I can't understand it. What
Sorry,
do
look, you guys
want
were
me to do?
retreating and stay there.
I'm not
What do
moving.
you mean,
Otherwise,
stand
I have not taken a step. I haven't moved an inch. I never move an inch. When do I ever move?
I apologize at the start. I'm a
Leon,
bit
my
chilly.
name is not
I'll tell you
Shamsi.
stand
I
still.
don't run. Like, I don't run. That's Shamsi's trick. Where is the old Gonzalez? You know?
Usually high up on some church pedestal where
Yeah.
his ego can be heard.
You want to?
His
Yeah.
ego can be
He's short, so he needs a bit of a elevation.
So
But no, hold on. My point is, you're arguing. You're seeing the wrong enemy. I would suggest to you, as a Christian, you're seeing the wrong enemy, because what you're saying is that we need to preserve a stable system, which will give the church the best chance to recover.
Society and then hopefully the church
Right.
as an organization.
But what I'm saying is that our loyalty as Christians, and thus our political activism, must solely and only, did you get that? Solely and only be for the triumph of the church.
Absolutely.
Now, the church will survive no matter what.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
I don't feel the Corpus Christi is not going away.
The Corpus Christi is not going anywhere. So the fact of the matter is, my suggestion to you is, let the English die.
Let them die.
If they don't want Christ, then what good are they to the kingdom?
That's a great question. I guess it's like a Christian Darwinism.
Now,
it's like going to say if they
one
haven't
second.
accepted,
If we were to create an immigration policy
I understand,
that said that
yeah,
we were going to allow mass immigration from Christian countries.
I'll be for Christian migration.
Yeah, no, right. I know you're for Christian migration, and this is, by the way, is why he's not a National Socialist.
No, I'm not.
Because a National Socialist would never be in favour of allowing Pakistani or Caribbean or African Christians into the country, but you would be in favour of that.
Christianity is no. My problem is you've asked in my view, you've asked probably the best question I've heard in Speaker's Corner. So I'm still processing it in my slow mind. But I think, I think the problem is, would it be a moral question if I said I could reclaim Christian nationalism? Would it be okay to let go of the flock and let them die for an ethnicity to fail? I've never thought of that question. It's a great question. I think my instinct says yes, but something in me, like an act of love, says no. It's a great question.
We don't want the English. We don't want the English to perish.
I can't want.
But when you become a Christian, you join another nation.
I feel part of that. I don't feel that's threatening to me. So, but it is a great question. I really would like to dwell on it. It's a fantastic question.
Because the thing is that it's axiomatic to any form of ethno-nationalism, the idea that when you are born again as a Christian, you are born into a royal household, a holy priesthood, another nation, a royal nation, a people is what we're described as, a people set apart. If the church is a people set apart, then that means that we are another ethnicity now. We are another ethnos, the ethnos of the church. And that means that we're not bought to the English, or to the Nigerian, or to the African.
The supremacy is non-negotiable for me. I would never compromise my Christianity for anything down.
And I get that. I accept
that's
that.
not happening. But for me, it's an interesting fault line because you say that, but that question I have to dwell on. That's a great question. But if you imagine the abstract organizing principle of society, then the neo-reactionary, the neo bit of the reaction is we're computer science based and mathematically oriented. And we're looking, going like, hang on. So there's abstract collectivism. You've got these three competing global warriors: the global neoliberalism, the middle liberals, the left, and the right. And the church is obviously in the right. It should be in the right first, but it's combo there. So the question is for nationalism. This is where the debate is. You look at the Christian nationalists really like storming the voice, Michael Jones, etc., storming the zeitgeist of thought. They're claiming surely the English, like you do and I would agree with you against, say, someone like Vinny, have lost their way because they've lost their ways of
The ways of the Father.
and to restore them, however, needs something like a stable place where they could be, especially if you think of generationally. We have more young nationalists.
I want to,
for example, young nationalists saying Deus Vult at every live stream chat with 1,000 people. They're saying Deus Vult.
they can say
And
Deus
they're
Vult.
young.
They can say Deus
But
Vult.
they're young still.
Yeah, but if
but
they
what
say
else do they attach to
if
their
they
square?
say Deus Vult,
They're saying
but they
they are
confuse
14 over and over again.
if they say Deus Vult, but they ascribe that God as some kind of tribal God.
They'll start there because there's genetic racism. But
No, hold on.
I'm
If they're saying Deus Vult, but their vision of God is a tribal God, then that means that they have lost the God.
Christianity.
Yeah, so they've not embraced Christianity
They're
properly.
learning their ways.
Yeah, well, they're going to agree. There's room for improvement. But you said that a Christian political narrative sits on the right, and I want to challenge that as well, because yes, morally, socially, in terms of our values about things like family, we would sit more comfortably with traditional conservatives than we would with
A large part of our
David
base
Cameron's
are,
conservatives.
a large part of our base are
We
traditionalist,
would,
cultural
yeah.
Christians
we
that
would
scared to go to
sit,
church.
we would sit on the traditional right.
Absolutely.
But if you look at the idea of monasticism, the idea of lay monasticism, the idea of the Book of Acts where it says, and they shared all things in common, and no one was in want. That is the idea of Christians having elective communism, which is left wing.
But I didn't mean
So-
right wing in the traditional form of communism. I meant to go right wing in the reactionary model of hierarchy.
Yeah.
So of God above spirit.
Hey.
Much more than I meant just a political model and maybe right wing authoritarian socialism. But my point is this: the different generations. When you look at the data, I guess where I live. In 2025, we have an objective to get to 10 seats. 13 years from today, we'll be 80 then.
Yeah.
And we look at the generation of Zoomers and Millennials, and we say where are they in their life journey with or without Christ. And the nationalist movement has reinvigorated people with the feeling that if you had ethno-nationalism without spirit, you're back to tribalism and neo-conservative feudalism.
Yeah.
Tribalism can't touch Islam. You have no spirit. What are you fighting and living for? I don't need to tell you that. The young blood are very, very open and Christian, and their stewardship now must be in that form that says nationalism gets them to collectivize anyway, because without the ethno bit, they have a common
But
concern that
the
isn't
collectivism.
being
Let's
solved.
talk about
There's
the
no market,
collectivism.
right?
Let's
There's
talk
no
about
market.
let's talk about the collectivism, because I agree there should be collectivism. Right? Christians should coalesce as fellowships, and those fellowships should coalesce as groups of fellowships, and those groups of fellowships should mobilize and work together. Okay? But it is on that basis that there should be coalition. There should be that Christians coalesce around the apostolic community, not around a political party, not around an ethnicity, not around some form of tribalism. Yeah, be honest with you. Be honest with me. Because you're
I'm
much-
listening with
and
open heart.
I know you are. I know you are. I know you are. I'm not one of these people that villainise you, Ralph. I really am not. I do think, just on a separate point, and not to get caught up on it too much, I do think doing the Heil salute is a bit childish. You
I
should
can
probably
talk
stop
about
it.
that. I should reach on that.
It's
It's part of the countercultural. It's part of
It
our
is.
audience are young.
The Heil salute is older than Nazi Germany, just saying. But the point is, it is silly to do it in our context. It's unwise, and as Christians, we're called to be wise.
Can we have a separate conversation about that one? Because
Yes,
that's a great one.
separately.
But nonetheless, my point just quickly down is that we already have the following. I'm not aware if you're sure of the marketplace of Christians and nationalists. We have in the generational game, if I plotted the generational data side by side, I can show this to you. We have a large number of Christians who are young,
Yeah.
therefore raw Christians, where I look at it, looking at they've got, as opposed to devoid of spirit, the atheist, nihilist, London.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
got spirit in them, and they're young, and they have to be guided. Then they're nationalists who can feel the hollowness, but they don't have Christ.
Yeah.
They're ethno-nationalists, and they sometimes fill it with this kind of rage,
Yeah.
but they don't have anything above it. So
Yeah.
they get a bit 1488.
And
We're aware of them, we're cognizant as the elders of them.
Yeah.
What we want to do internally is unite that spirit back in under the nationalism, because we and our numbers say 2/3 of the marketplace has got a latent amount of 20% of seats for Christians.
Yeah.
So right now Dominic Cummings is hired the smartest computer science and data guys, because we know the right-wing wedge is up to 20%. They saw what happened.
I'm not here to argue about the demographics of the right-wing movement. But what I'm saying is that hard right nationalism and hard right ethno-nationalism is in contradiction to the Christian narrative. And I'll give you an example. Hebrews 11. All these died in faith without receiving the promises, but having seen them and having welcomed them from a distance, and having confessed that they were strangers and exiles on earth. Did you hear that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Where?
Yeah,
on earth. Does that include everywhere on earth?
Yeah, I appreciate. I myself, I
For
want
those,
Christendom.
for those who say such things, make it clear that they are not. Sorry, my apologies. Make it clear that they are seeking a country of their own. If indeed they had been thinking of that country from which they went out, they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Which means that the desire of the Christian in terms of our politics is about bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth. It is not about the preservation of an ethnicity. It is not about preservation of a nation state. It is not about the preservation of a particular culture.
Absolutely. But there's been a problem with this, because if you look at, and you probably have the data better than me, Christians are being persecuted, prosecuted, and murdered around the world.
Absolutely.
They're being ethnically cleansed
Yes.
first, even without being Christian, from the entire Middle East and other parts
Yes.
of the world. If we look at the higher narrative as neo-reactionary, as accelerationism, I would argue, and then others argue with me, that I would love to introduce them to people to argue.
I'd love to meet these guys.
Theologically,
I'll
absolutely.
debate with
Who would
them.
argue? Yeah, I would love to know more. And
We'll organise a Bible study.
I would organise, and there was someone that said to protect the Christian fellowship, which is that of the abstract and exile of the land. To protect the Christian fellowship, it's necessary to protect the land as subordinate to protect the ethnicity. They argue with me, ethnicity without spirit will not even save the
No, I
ethno.
get that you're
So
not.
they're not being ethno.
I get that you're. I get it. I get that you're not a plain ethno-nationalist. I get it. No, I get that.
What's more important, spirit or ethnicity?
One's religion is more important than one's ethnicity.
Would you say ethnicity still has importance, although you view religion as higher?
Religion is definitely higher than ethnicity. In the order of value, our faith or not in Christ is the deciding factor of one's personal allegiance. So my personal allegiance is to every Christian in Ethiopia, or every Christian in Russia, than it is before every atheist Englishman.
Okay.
So, Bob.
But once you have the Christianity, then what about ethnicity afterwards?
If a group of people are Christian, then their ethnicity has already been superseded, and they are now part of the confederacy of the church, which is a collection of ethnicities, tribes and peoples that are worshipping God. There's nothing innate about the ethnicity that needs to be preserved if it doesn't have value in the kingdom of God.
And if I may, I say, when I hug my Christian brothers of any ethnicity and race, I don't feel that ethnicity and race. I feel a Christian brother in my heart. I don't feel them as a physical being. I feel them as I don't feel it. As a Christian, I don't feel it. Yeah, but I don't feel. I'm thinking about
If you were to take away, so let's say in my case, so I'm not Christian, I'm not religious at all.
Are you an ethno-nationalist?
Would be called it. Yeah, nationalist, patriotic.
So you're a nationalist?
Okay. So you take away religion.
Yeah.
And one of the things that religion serves a purpose. It's a set of cultures, beliefs, values, so it's sort of moral guidance. So you take that away.
Yeah.
So why should we not preserve ethnicity? Because that's the second best thing that we have as a nation.
Okay,
we
allow me
don't
to
believe in
reply.
religion because
That's a good
ethnicity.
question. No, I'm going to put that like this.
Because I would
So-
say.
yeah.
I would say that ethnicities have their own sort of cultures, values and morals that aren't shared with other ethnicities and races.
So let me address your thought experimentally directly. You've said if we take away religion, yeah, then that means
Go
that we
and shower.
can.
Is that haircut?
Brother, do you want to talk to me or do you want to argue with a pirate? Right.
Ignore the pirate.
Forget Mr. I want to be a communist over here. You're talking to a Christian.
I'm not a communist, mate.
So,
Like,
in
we've had
terms
this
of
conversation
what we're talking about, I would say to you that there is nothing in England that needs to be preserved unless it is built on Christ, and that includes the very people themselves. If they aren't built on Christ, let them die. No, I wouldn't kill them. But what I'm saying is, I'm not interested if they preserve. Well, their spiritual death is leading to their biological death. They abandoned Christian roots and traditions, and now they've given up the family and have given up children, and as an ethnos, they are literally dying out. The English will be a footnote in history. But my point to you is that in terms of the Christian worldview, it's more than just moral guidance. It is more than just ethical guidance. Christianity is a comprehensive worldview of which ethics and morality are one part, but there is a greater paradigm which gives us the cause that we fight for. It gives us spiritual experiences that enrich our lives. It gives us values. It tells us what to ascribe value to and what not to ascribe value to. It gives us an ethic by which we can live our life, a virtue ethic. It enriches the soul and it leads to salvation. It's based upon a supernatural reality. It's more than just moral guidance, and that's the problem with ethno-nationalists that want to capture Christianity to their own ends. Because when an ethno-nationalist captures Christianity to their own ends, they just want to reduce it to some cultural festivals and a couple of morals, and that's not Christianity.
I agree with you, but here's the dynamics of the board. And this is why I think meeting people like E. Michael Jones and others, our team of
I'll meet with anyone.
Absolutely. Is that you've got this problem that in this accelerationism, the rate of these people coming in who are not Christian and not ethnic has been accelerating. So
You're
the
an
ethnic
accelerationist,
response,
Ralph.
so the ethnic
you're an
response to those
accelerationist.
without Christ has been primarily ethnic. It's shaping the world anyway. The Christian nationalists go, look, the ethnics are taking this anyway, and the projection 10, 20, 30 is a cycle reversal on its way. They're going to push nationalism. These chaps need the spirit of Christ. So what they're doing is precisely what you just said, man. And that's where that intersection is. So we can't throw out ethnicity like the lady was trying to imply. Ethnicity is present for those who don't have the spirit, and they're actors on the ball anyway. And non-Christian, non-Vietnamese just look around you on the game theory. So nationalism is an easy way to defend, and that's the debate. There's another form. It can't be civic.
Let me make it clear. I absolutely believe that ethno-nationalists should be evangelized. I believe that there should be evangelists working amongst ethno-nationalists to bring them to Christ. I believe that just because you're an ethno-nationalist doesn't mean that you're somehow untouchable. I would happily sit down and do a Bible study with a room full of ethno-nationalists.
And we have those voices.
I don't simply dismiss them, because I believe that every soul is precious. Every single soul, including the pirate here and this brother. Yeah, and the Salafists,
Even the pirates.
yeah, even the hijab and the Hashims of this world and the Mansours, and Ralph, and any neo-Nazi, I want them all to be saved. All to be saved. And giving ourselves over to hatred, is one of the key problems of ethno-nationalism. Because pride and hubris in something as vain as your race very quickly and very easily leads to hatred of other races, and it is totally unjustified, and it is completely against the new covenant established by Jesus Christ.
I disagree with that. Because just because you're...
Sorry, which bit do you disagree with?
What you said, it leads to people hating other races. It's not necessarily hating other races, it's just an objective view.
I said it very easily,
Yeah,
Lewis.
that's what you think, but it doesn't necessarily do so.
No, not necessarily.
Because it's an objective view that certain races are, quite frankly, incompatible with other races, in the same sense that I wouldn't move to Somalia because I wouldn't fit in Somalia. I don't believe that certain races should be integrated.
What about
Salman's a friend of mine,
Ethiopia?
and he's an atheist, but he has no hate in his heart.
What about Ethiopia?
I don't know enough about them. I know that Ethiopian Jews exist and we have Judeo-Christian values.
Would you allow Ethiopian Jews to settle here?
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you allow Ethiopian Christians to settle here?
Yeah.
Would you allow Ethiopian Muslims to settle here? So your issue is not ethnicity then? Your issue is the religion?
Theism. No, it's a part of it, yeah.
No, hold on. In our thought experiment, where you're in control of immigration,
Yeah.
you said you would accept...
But I wouldn't accept...
You would accept
I
Jewish...
wouldn't accept an atheist Ethiopian.
Right. But so what you're talking about, therefore, is...
Because they have-
but that's belief.
they don't even have the values
One
of
second.
Islam. They have
One
zero
second.
values.
One second. But what you're saying then... One saying then...
I'm an anti-theist.
So what you're saying...
He had
Hold on.
zero values.
Wait.
Apparently I'm a hippie.
Don't speak out
No,
there, so
don't-
you know that I
don't
can
run away.
retire
Sorry, no, I'm not gonna run away.
Don't
Right.
speak out loud.
Because what you, in your categories that you've just used, what you identified was beliefs, not ethnicities. And that is the point that I'm making. That it's about beliefs, not ethnicities. So you're agreeing actually with me, not the other way around.
It's a values-based approach.
Yeah? So it's a values-based approach that you're using.
Because
So we're not talking about ethnicities.
No, but I-
Ethnicities
I-
are not the issue. So it's not about some races can't live together. It's about some beliefs can't live together, and I agree on that. Some beliefs cannot live
What I
together.
said about an atheist Ethiopian, I would say that they're incompatible with Western society.
Sorry?
I would say that an atheist Ethiopian...
Ralph, just guys, what are you doing?
What are you doing? You're harassing us. Look at it. Why are you attacking Christians or speaking here? You're heckling the Christians.
He goes for that.
Back up.
He just poured war on me. Are you gonna have a go at him?
Why are you attacking Christians? You're heckling Christians speaking. And you're attacking.
Did you put war on?
I put it back up when I really confessed. I shouldn't have done
You've
that.
been a non. Stop it.
Lister, can you just go? You're just disrupting
No,
the
he heckles all the time. When people heckle him, you can't handle it. He's throwing
Sorry,
war.
Lister, you're provoked, but leave us alone. We don't want to listen.
Say a proper apology.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lister.
Do you not like free speech? Do you not like being heckled?
He's apologised.
No, I'm going to stay here and heckle them.
Yeah, you're ruining
Exactly what he does to other people. Exactly what he does to other people. It's all over the internet. then.
self-control.
Don't just apologise for calling me apologise for heckling everyone else. And then I'll stop treating you.
So,
the way you
as you can see, the self-entitled lefty thinks that he has the right to impose himself on every conversation, even when he's not wanted. Even when his opinion is not invited.
Treating him the way he treats everyone else.
The problem,
treat others how you wish to be treated.
the problem with the
I'm
self-righteous
treating
lefties
him how he wishes
is
to be
that
treated.
they think that only
I think
their
this is-
opinion can be heard.
Oh, I think this is
And that
stupid
no
behaviour.
other opinion can
But
be
I'm
heard.
demonstrating through my stupid behaviour.
Thank you, we all agree that he behaved stupidly, and now you are doing just as bad.
Hey, I'm just responding to the wet arm that I just
You
got.
will survive, Lister.
Very grown up, Ralph.
You're a pirate after all.
Right, can we continue the conversation?
Let's get back to the conversation.
I apologise for all the rockets.
I'll get back to where I was,
I did
heckling
wrong.
from the side, just like
Can
you
we
did.
continue the conversation that you're not moderating?
Right. So back to
I will
the point
heckle
that
to the
I was
side.
making. The
I'm
point
in
that I was
control
making.
here.
Don't
Nice haircut,
guys
Sam.
focus.
Easy, Lister.
If I can focus on you two need to focus on us two, right? So just focus and ignore him. Yeah, it's just noise, that's all it is. So back to what we were saying. In terms of, you've agreed with me that it's not really about race, it's about values and beliefs.
Not entirely. I said that part of it is to do with values and beliefs.
Wait,
And the
yeah.
other part of it, what I said about the atheist,
But that's, when you say atheist, you're talking about beliefs and values. What is an atheist? Is an atheist a race? No. Is it a belief system?
An Ethiopian without beliefs.
Is it a belief system? Right, so it's not the question of whether we're talking. Do you have no self-discipline in your heart?
Peace on earth.
Yeah? This is why you need Christ, bro.
I've already had
Because
it.
Christ will help you.
I've already had it. I grew up as a Christian.
That doesn't mean anything. You may have grown up in a Christian family. That doesn't mean that you grew up as a Christian.
We have an understanding of Christianity that you don't.
But may I stress test you the other way?
Go on then.
So I think the problem is if you take the Christian compass off a second, which I don't and can't, and you look at what's happening on the board is atheist nationalists are jockeying for political power. In the last, since 1979, no right-wing party has more than 2%, and the last 10, 20 years as a reaction against mass immigration, here's an notwithstanding, in a cultural war of values, of ethnicity, are preparing to storm across the earth. I believe the Christian voice is essential. There are ethnic nationalists who are atheistic and want to reject Christ for reasons against for Jew hate. Right? They're anti-Jewish. Then they transpose their hate they don't feel with this thing you call assimilation, right? And they do the wrong thing. But they're open to Christ. So that, I think that intersection is going to be pivotal.
So
whether I do anything
let me talk
anyone does anything.
I get your point. So let me,
that's a trajectory.
and you have precedent in history as well, and I'm going to explain what that is. For those of you that want to go away and look into this, you can look into the Christian Socialist movement. The Christian Socialist movement was born because some Christians with a sense of vision and gumption about themselves saw that communism was going to rock the world, and they wanted to develop a Christian response to the rise of communism. Now, whether your assessment of atheist nationalism about to storm the world is accurate or not is a deeply debatable point. Deeply debatable.
I can defend that one very well.
However, and I have no problem with Christians engaging with nationalists at all.
X percentage of those people. Let me give you an example. So I spent a year in Germany.
But that engagement should be to seek to cultivate those people to be disciples of Christ and to use their energies and resources, their abilities and skills to the defense of and the triumph of the church. Now, there was a key point to your argument that I want to address. You stated that you see this intersectionalism as a way of creating a buffer, a defense of the Christian church. Did I misunderstand you, or is that
Something deeper than buffer, but we can go to data. A transformational call.
okay?
We want young boys to be Christian as early as possible, for as long as possible.
Amen. But in terms of that, what you're assuming is that the church doesn't have the right to defend itself.
The church have neglected the demographic that are participating in this transformation.
No,
They don't go to church, they're on YouTube. There are tons of them. They're the top internet numbers. But they're not going to physically necessarily go to church.
The church,
But they're already connected to
Don't worry.
the church.
I mean, the church is badly led. We agree that the church is badly led. We have
in the physical
bishops.
space.
We have bishops that are sold out to left-wing politics. They're nothing but cultural Christians, and they've abandoned any defence of the church. Lots of Anglican bishops are really just heretics. You know, but the reality is, real Christian identity
I appreciate what you're saying. They're not there.
replaces a
I know.
national identity.
Absolutely, but if you imagine that years a process for boys who don't understand that, I do and you do. They're on a pipeline.
How old are these boys?
So if you see that pipeline, they're led by us who know. And if you look at the elders,
Tell
they're
us, about,
60,
tell, us,
70.
tell us about the 14 words.
We must secure the existence of any sort of people and a future for their children as a template. So we stand like with the Dalai Lama. We must secure the existence of Congo and the future for Congolese children. All people. So we can't just say we want our future independence and then we go do things too.
Here's my
We're
problem with
non-interventionist. Non-interventionist.
Here's my problem with the 14 words.
And very mimetically powerful.
I agree that the idea of the 14 words is that any ethnicity can say them. Any ethnicity can say the 14 words. But should a Christian say them, or should the Christian insert the words Christian instead of...
That's the highest 14. That's so if you
So say the 14 words as a Christian.
we must secure the existence of Christian.
There we go. And that is the heart, and that is the heart of Christian
And we have
politics.
voices.
Back to Christ, Ralph.
We have voices in there who get it.
He is in Christ, Chris. He just needs some discipleship.
So we have the boys who are in the digital space of the age group in that pipeline. Thousands of them that show up in a minute, and they've lost the detachment of the physical world. And they're 14, some of them are 14, right? And they're not crossed over. Some of them crossed over into views. And that process, if we left it to die, it would either fail off or succeed if we tried it.
And I agree.
Which is wrong if you just take
me
Christian.
and you are in agreement on a lot of things. Yeah? A lot of things.
What do you
Oh,
agree
very
with?
shortly. So what I would say to you, what I would say to you,
What do you
I
agree
agree
with?
with the idea. I agree with the idea of evangelizing and bringing them to faith. And without faith, ethno-nationalism is just tribalism. It will fail. It has failed, and it's going to fail again.
And my brother Bob has inspired me to take the 14 words and templatize in the Christian format and infect the nationalist
And that is
movement.
the only way that the
You want to
14
infect it.
words can be mentioned.
And infect
Are
it
you
with
a
the nationalist
beacon?
movement.
Amen.
I would do that
Leon wants to back one
perpetually.
Christian.
Perpetually.
Say
We
them as a
must secure
Christian.
the existence of Christendom and a future for all Christians.
There you go. Did you hear that, Leon?
I missed it. What happened?
We must secure a future
Maybe
for
we don't
Christendom and all Christians. All Christians includes
In what order?
Ethiopia. Or it doesn't matter the order. All.
That's
All.
what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Do you agree? All.
Leon, if you have Christ in your heart, you're my brother before any other brother.
Bob, what's your opinion on
laughing.
Acts 17 and
You're the
26?
winning side.
Okay.
Are you going to take this guy seriously when he says
So-
he uses propaganda like Goebbels?
Made from one Adam, every nation, ethnos of mankind, anthropon, to live on all the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation.
Amen.
So let me deal with that. Let me deal with that.
Not paying attention.
The apostle is speaking into the realities of the world. Those boundaries that are appointed by the Lord, are superseded by the kingdom of God. It says that Christ will reign in the midst of his enemies in the Psalms. That the Messiah will reign in the midst of his enemies, which means that the church acknowledges no borders. The church acknowledges no boundaries. We do not care if the Muslims say you can't go to Mecca. We are going to take the gospel to Mecca.
Amen, brother.
We don't care
Yes, 2.0.
if the Muslims claim that
Bob's gonna
Constantinople is theirs.
Has fallen.
We are going to celebrate the liturgy in the Hagia Sophia again.
Amen, brother.
As Christians, we do not recognize borders or boundaries. They are the things of nations of this world, the things that are passing away, of this order of things. But the church will outlive them all. Many ethnos have come and gone. Many nations
Say
have
some
passed.
words. Big up.
Many nations have passed out of the histories, like the Picts. Who speaks of the Picts today?
Scots inherit the Picts.
They're gone. Their culture is gone.
Lived on with the Scots.
They now assume to themselves a culture that is different.
British
The
DNA has not
church,
changed for
however,
4,500
the church, however, has outlived many a nation and many a people. And that is what you should come to. You should come and bring your energies and resources, and every nationalist that is out there, and every ethno-nationalist that is out there needs to come to the teachings of the apostles and the prophets. For many of you, that is actually your heritage. That is actually your heritage by birthright, and you should embrace it with the fullness of the conviction in your heart and commit yourselves as disciples of Christ to the triumph of the church, not the triumph of the nation.
Which church? The Catholic
There is
Church?
only one Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, and there isn't another. That is the heart of Christian politics. Solidarity with the persecuted Christian, based upon a Christian identity, connected to Christian history, Christian culture, based upon Christian values and a Christian worldview. When we become a Christian, we stop being English, we stop being Nigerian, we stop being Ukrainian, we stop being Albanian, we stop being Serbian, we stop being Palestinian, we stop being Greek, we stop being Coptic, we stop being Arab, and we become Christians, and we are united together in a confederacy of Christ.
I will arrange something. We can have a meeting and chat.
I want to do a discipleship with the people group that you're talking about.
Oh boy! Oh
We'll
no!
arrange that.
Oh no!
Don't respond. Don't respond. It's just water. It's just water.
Come on, man.
You're an asshole, Lester. Right, and you see, that is the difference that Christ makes in your heart. Lister lives by a code of eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Ralph.
This is not a milkshake.
Leave it. Right, go on. So the point that you're making. It's all right. Yeah, I would like to do.
If you want to meet up,
If you want to set up a live stream with as many of these people that you're talking about, I'll gladly do a Bible study.
I might have something else.
But can I ask you a favour? Right?
Absolutely.
Can I ask you a favour? Just as a human to a human, as a brother to a brother, I see within you a tendency to play up to the crowd.
That's not really my intention. That just happens to be one.
Right, but
It gets annoying. I don't really like it.
yeah, but maybe stop yourself from doing some of the sillier things like doing milestones.
What's right with your
Sometimes, Ralph, you give in to that temptation to be a shock jockey, and you say things just because it gives people a rise. You're not doing the cause any favours when you do that. Yeah?
I'm showing remarkable respect despite all odds right now. Because
Show restraint in your own heart. Show restraint in your own heart. Right? This brother needs Christ.
yeah, he's going
I have a
He
different-
needs
I have a
Christ.
different interpretation of Christ to you.
There is only one interpretation of Christ, and that's the one given by the
Are
church.
Arians Christian in your opinion?
No.
Jamie
there you
wants
go.
to have a go at the
Are you an
ethnicity.
Arian?
He wants
No,
to
but I understand why they are Arian.
Are you an Arian?
No, I meant the Church of Aries, who
Arius.
who said that God and Jesus and God are separate. So,
Yeah,
so a
exactly.
Christian has to be a Trinitarian in your opinion.
Yes, Christian is a Trinitarian, and that's not my opinion, that's the opinion of the Christian community. That was an opinion settled at the Council of Nicaea in Constantinople long before I was born.
It's very curious why they settled that version of
But
Christian.
you're a Trinitarian. Or you're saying he's a Trinitarian and a pagan.
But let me ask you this
And that
question.
really confuses me.
You
How
can't
can you be
claim
Trinitarian and
you
pagan?
can't claim a heritage connected to your ethnos unless you connect to the Christian church.
Right, so the length of the Belgica / British people has gone on for 4,500 years. Do you think for just 2,000 years of that last history defines the whole spectrum?
Yes, because you have no historical connection to what came before.
The genes have not changed.
Well, the genes have changed.
Not
not really. Like,
genes
they
have
stay
changed.
pretty consistent of that one.
The Normans, the Romans, the Vikings.
Apart from the Romans, the Danes, the Saxons, the Celts, the Normans, they all come from the same genetic group of people.
So our genetics have changed.
No, they've stayed mostly homogenous. You know.
No, they've changed. Celts are not. The Celts are not Germanic, but they're part of what we would
They came
call
from the same people of the Neolithic times.
And most of the
Celts,
Romans here were
Saxons.
They have the same genotype: red hair, blonde hair, blue eyes. These are very fragile things that we should protect, like we want to protect.
There's nothing special about them.
Well, I think it's special. It's very
There's
special.
nothing special about them. I agree with you. Wait, you've misunderstood me. I agree with you. Being white is beautiful, but so is being black, and so is being Asian,
Their own
and
unique
so is
places.
being Latino.
In their own unique places. It's not healthy to have
No.
lots of black people
What?
in the northern hemisphere.
Why-
just like it's
what's-
not healthy
what's
for
wrong
us
with
to be
it?
in the southern
What's
hemisphere.
wrong with it?
Because we are used to an ecology because of the environment we live in.
For me, I would gladly replace you with a Nigerian Christian.
It's all good, but
I would gladly replace you with a
it's
Nigerian.
healthy.
The aggressors back in the game.
He's just threatened me with violence.
Honestly, Lister, you're a rude guy. I'm not really interested in talking to you. You're not a defender of anything.
Called the aggression account.
You're just an eccentric.
I'm a preserver.
You're not even a preserver. Because your kind of ethno-nationalism pushes people away from any kind of sensible conservatism. You drive people over a cliff because your ideas are so extreme, it makes it hard to form alliances with other
It's only extreme in
Christians.
European countries.
Yeah,
It's not extreme in India. It's not extreme in Japan.
People
it's
like
not extreme
you,
in South Korea.
people like you will be the death of the English. You're no saviour of anything. You will be the death of
Public
the
opinion
English
is changing.
because people are so revolted by your ideology that they reject sensible conservatism. They reject
I just love my
sensible
extended
traditionalism.
family. I just love my extended family.
Yeah, but that's not what the data shows.
My family, according to Christ, is those who follow him.
It's your opinion.
That is my belief.
But you don't have the
That
same
is my
genetics.
belief.
The DNA is very different.
I have.
You can't go.
I don't care about genetics.
Right, well, some people do.
I do not ascribe the value to genetics that you do, because in the new covenant, that system of thought ended.
Yeah, fuck the Renaissance. They gave us such
That
horrible things.
that system of thought ended. You know, you throw out words like the Renaissance, you don't even understand
You don't like the
it.
Renaissance because it's pagan. You know, it's pagan.
I don't hate the
oriented.
Renaissance at
Yeah,
all.
you think you love the medieval
I don't.
Christian.
The Christian era is something that I think we could learn a lot from, and it's
I
something
accept
that
that.
we should learn a lot from.
accept that.
And it's time for people in Europe to re-embrace their Christian heritage with some pride.
adapted to something new.
But you can't embrace that because you reject the Christian heritage, which means you reject the last 2,000 years of your own history.
No, I mean, let me see, here's the problem. It's literally, I see a schism between Christians across generations. So if you look at Jamie's generation downwards, and we have the data, and literally the people who are our boys, if you like, they don't think the same way. We want them to think the same way, and we need them to, but they already don't think so. So if we ignore them, Christianity won't be a part of the process.
I've already agreed.
Yeah, which
And I
think is
agree
positive. So he's speaking
that
really from that place.
ethno-nationalists like him do need to be evangelized.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah? But where ethno-nationalists like him make themselves into the enemies of the gospel, then ethno-nationalists like him need to be outmaneuvered, sidelined, and out.
That's the process of Biden. That's where the fault lines are.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's where,
so-
because they're coming anyway.
So I am not against what you're trying to do, but I do honestly think that sometimes you don't do yourselves. You don't do yourself any favors.
But remember, our audience is not these people. It's a completely
Who's
different
our?
set of
Who's
people.
who's the we?
The people who are nationalists.
You're a nationalist.
He's evangelizing nationalists, and there's
So they
nothing
don't
wrong
think
with
like that.
evangelizing nationalists.
No, nothing wrong with that. As long as the evangelist is to the right faith.
Amen.
Well, there's only one faith.
Yeah, do you have a problem with medieval TV shows having people that didn't exist in those times? Like, I don't know.
If they're presenting it as a historical drama, yeah, it's not accurate.
Right, so why are we advocating for a policy that means less people living in the country?
I have no problem. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I want the white races to disappear.
But you
But
happily,
what I'm
if it
saying,
meant everyone to be Christian.
what I'm saying is, if I had to choose between everyone in Europe being Christian, or everyone being in Europe, everyone in Europe being Christian but not white, or everyone being white but not Christian, I would choose to let everyone in Europe be Christian but not white. There's nothing innately valuable about what the colour of one's skin, other than the fact that God made it. But God made every race, and so every race is equally of value according to their ethnicity.
Right, but the Old Testament really demonstrates how the tribe is the most important factor. You know.
I think another way to respond, if I speak to where Jamie's coming from, is there are lots of boys in different generations, young men, creating this voting base across Europe that are more racinated than they are spiritualized. So it's not either or it's not a precedent. Like Jimmy, how racinated they are after 50 years of cultural marketing versus how spiritualized they are.
Yeah.
So it's not either or flip. And those people are coming and Jamie saying it's a highly racial racinated.
Let me ask you
And
this question.
so they're not going to agree with you because they don't really care. And that's the voting
in
base.
everything that you've heard him say,
Yeah.
in everything that you have heard him say, what are your problems with his viewpoint?
My only problem, I don't have a problem with his viewpoint. I see him as a.
So you have no problem with the viewpoint he said.
Let me finish. I don't see a problem with the viewpoint per se. I see any one of his viewpoints is on a journey of a process that will either get to where you are, hopefully through these towards that, or it won't and it will fail. If it fails, then it doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter about it.
So
If it
you're-
succeeds, it's our duty to put it that way.
So you're
I
saying-
take every person I meet and the hundreds of them and I plot them on that spiritual overlay of the compass going, right, here's where you're on your spiritual progress versus your racination.
You're using, am I right in thinking you're using a Hegelian paradigm?
Sort of, yeah.
Right. So you're using a Hegelian paradigm that presumes that unless nationalists can become Christians, that their nationalism will fail. Is that correct?
If I look
I don't want to misrepresent you.
No, if I look at my highest order narratives, they come from Christianity on the acceleration, and I want peace on earth. So if I look at peace of earth from the top coming down and this global disaster happening, then I go, gosh, if nationalism is right, all these people are in different stages of the process of what is going to be secured in the worst case with 100% ethnics that have no Christ.
Forgive me, Ralph.
So if they have 100% ethnics with no Christ, we're looking at .3 coming.
Yeah, we're
I mean,
looking.
do you think that hate you see?
Yeah.
That's going to be excellent.
This
So
kind
we
of.
see that hate crime statistics, we see that in transformation stuff.
And I agree with you. I agree with you that ethno-nationalism for its own sake should be opposed by the church. But let me ask you this question. Let us assume that your Hegelian thought process is right and that demographically actually the ethno-nationalists and the nationalists end up becoming a dominant political force in this world.
Which is what we're seeing.
When push comes to shove,
It's accelerating.
when push comes to shove, are you willing to fight for the church against the ethno-nationalists? Okay, he's not the ethno-nationalist you think he is.
I'm not an ethno-nationalist. I keep
I know
telling
you.
you that.
I know you.
I keep telling you that I'm not an ethno-nationalist.
And I'm helping you to prove it.
Yeah, I'm an imperialist. I'm a Christian absolutist.
And I'm helping you to prove it. Because
So
while
the problem with ethnics, I say, the problem with ethnics are going to go, look, if you look at the dynamics and you see that replacement demographics, you see the 2030, you see 60% being breached, this vacuum looks like conflict. If you plot the hate crime statistics, and just in the UK, 5 for 10 years, it's about 8-10 years ago, they're just going across Europe, all going up. You see the tension coming. That vacuum is going to be replicated
would
by
you agree
2025.
with me that that's because of the failure of liberalism to tackle radical Islam?
And just generally to make a nihilistic consumer society.
Yeah, the reality is the liberal progressives have created the problem because of their own failures to deal with Salafist forms of Islam.
And massive immigration that's only been
But I would
established.
suggest to you that a muscular church, a revitalized, strong Christian spirituality is the thing that will speak to him the most. And will speak to other nationalists the most. When Christians recover the kind of spirituality that inspired the Christians to throw back Jihad 1, Jihad 2, and Jihad 3, when we recover that kind of spirituality, you'll find that working class lads who have nationalist opinions come into the church. We as Christians need to recover a strong sense of our own identity, because it's only when we recover our own identity as Christians that others that are seeking for a strong identity will find it. But we have to be clear what that identity means. That identity means that we ascribe to ourselves the identity of being a disciple of Christ, not of being an Englishman, not of being a German or a Frank or a Catalonian. or a Celt, or a Viking,
Even a Welsh.
or a Welshman. That's a Celt.
And the problem, Bob, is here is the majority of the demographic people in the data are not thinking that way right now. They're accelerating their spiritual connections at a formidable rate.
And that's why you should
And you
evangelize.
can see that.
I'm not against you evangelizing
I'm just
them. I'll
saying
even
so.
help. I'll even. We'll set up a
So I think
live
like
stream.
Bob and Michael Joe.
What denomination are you?
I'm just a Christian.
What does that mean?
I don't believe a Christian is someone who is a disciple of Christ. They look to Christ as their teacher. They accept who he is, and they follow him.
And you have to
I
be
get it,
Christian.
but what sort of church do you go to? Obviously,
I'll go to any Christian church.
any.
Christian church.
So you're Protestant.
No, I'll go to any Christian church. Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Coptic, Evangelical, Baptist, Methodist. I'll go to all of them.
But they're not all combined together, they all.
Agreed, they're not. But that is the failure of Christians over history. But the reality is that the community, the people of God, the community of faith.
You'll have to pay attention. I wish I would.
Yeah. But the people of God are found in all of these denominations. They're not just found in one denomination.
Okay, but I'm just saying that most denominations do have this stance. So I've forgotten the term.
So my job is to convince as many Christians as I can to adopt this position.
To adopt it.
Ecumenical.
Yeah, that.
Yes.
That's what I'm.
Yeah. I encourage Christians to adopt an ecumenical position.
Okay, but would you not say that the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church and Protestants are incompatible in that regard?
The church is not defined by any of these denominations. The church is that collection of people who seek to follow Jesus in their lives. And they will recognize one another. And you find them in the Catholic Church, you find them in the Orthodox Church, you find them in the Protestant churches. And they recognize one another as being disciples of Christ.
Yeah, I agree.